Good evening, everyone.
Evening, Miss.
Evening, Miss. Alrighty, so the last time we tried to meet, I had some technical difficulties, but I'm going to try to merge our sessions into one session tonight. And we're going to see how that goes. All right, so we're in Unit 5. And here, there are a few assignments that you'll be required to do. Normally, you have your forum as the first assignment. And for the forum, you'll need to rely on the Chapter 5 presentation and the lectures presented by Dr. Ryan. And tonight, I'm going to ask Starla to read the instructions for us.
Good night, Miss. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Okay. Forum number 5, IT, infrastructure and emerging technologies. We are now living in a new era of technology. Businesses have been declining due to their inability to adapt to the new technological era. Take a look around your community and share with us businesses that are currently using mobile computing. Be sure to properly describe the business and explain as clear as possible with examples how that particular business is using mobile technology. In addition, select another business from within your community, describe the business and share how a mobile computing device can help that business improve operations or decision making.
Thank you. So for that forum, you will need to, let me just scroll down to that slide. Yes. For this forum, you will need to use some of the concepts that you would find in your Chapter 5 slides. So pay attention to slides 7, 8, 19, 28, and 31, as well as 32. The concepts coming out from there, we'd like to see those in your forum as well. Now, you're covering 2 businesses, and this is something that you can do on your own, investigate in your community, one of the businesses that falls into this criteria, and then explain how information technology can help it to improve. The business doesn't necessarily have to use WhatsApp. If you find one that could benefit from using some type of technology, you can write about that one as well. Okay, so let me go back to Moodle. Now this forum becomes due on Sunday at midnight, so you still have some time to work on that. Another test is coming up, and this test becomes due on the 25th of this month. We've extended the deadline because of the recent Hurricane Lisa. Some persons are still getting themselves sorted since the natural disaster, and so we decided to allow you a little bit more time. So what does this mean? It means from tonight up to the 25th of November, you have the opportunity to do test number 2. The password for test number 2 is coins, and it's seen here on the screen. So please get it done before or by the 25th of this month. The next assignment that you'll have coming up for the 20th of November is your practical project number 5. Now the instructions are a little lengthy, so I will allow you to read those in your groups, but an example is given here of what you will be working on. Additionally, on Moodle, you will see benchmark presentations. Let me just go back. We have 2 examples here that you can look at as you work on these. So in this table, we're looking at the type of technologies that you would require for the scenario presented. You are operating as a consultant and you're required to determine how many devices are needed per unit in the scenario given. Now you have to decide what devices you're going to purchase. You need to inquire on the prices of these, what's the cost of shipping, etc., as you prepare this document. Okay, so at this time, we're going to pause for our first case study presenter, and then we will resume. On my list, I have Natasha.
Right now, I'm just opening the slides.
And while she's doing that, the other presenters can get ready. So after Natasha, we have Diona, followed by Gabriel.
Miss, quick question, Miss.
Yes, go ahead.
You have not done attendance as yet, right, Miss?
No, not as yet.
Okay, I just want to verify.
Miss, before Natasha starts, Dominique asked to tell you that he'll be a little bit late for class today.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good night, everyone. My presentation is on Rockwell Automation. So their mission is to improve the quality of life by making the world more productive and sustainable. We are committed to enabling the next generation of smart manufacturing. With the right strategy, talented people, and our substantial financial strength, we are dedicated to deliver value to our customers. So this case study focused on Rockwell Automation in the oil and gas industry. So Rockwell Automation is a global company focusing on industrial automation and digital transformation. The company is organized into two major business segments: architecture and software, and control product and solutions. What's interesting is that because the company has grown over the years, I actually found online that in 2021, they had to restructure the organization. So it has been changed into the three operating segments now is the intelligent devices, software and control, and life cycle service. Along with their products, the company offers repairs, asset management, and remote support. In the past, the company was paper-based, which made it very challenging for them to offer these services to their customers because, like I said, it focuses on the oil and gas industry, and majority of the time it's in remote places in the middle of deserts, and they needed their machinery to always be up and running and never have any or have minimum downtime, right? And if everything is paper-based, then that makes it extremely difficult. So the company had to figure out a way to have a competitive edge. And this is where Microsoft Azure was introduced. This is a cloud computing platform and infrastructure created for building, deploying, managing applications and services through a global network of Microsoft data centers. So this is where they just simply, all the assets that they were managing and even what they own, they uploaded all that information into Microsoft Azure so that they can better keep track of them. And along with the Internet of Things, which I found this definition online and I felt that it really gives a full idea of what it is. So the Internet of Things is a network of devices that feeds data into a platform to enable communication and automated control. Internet of Things connects machines to other machines as well as people. It primarily connects the physical to the digital. So along with Microsoft Azure, where they uploaded all the information about these machines, the Internet of Things help them to actually keep to know what's happening with the machine, if there was any servicing that needed to be done, or if a machinery needed to be, if any parts needed to be changed or anything of that sort, they were better able to keep track of them, which is great in the oil and gas industry. And the other thing is that Rockwell Automation is used in other industries as well, like Kimberly-Clark, which they create products that we all know, like Kleenex, Kotex, Cottonelle, Huggies, and stuff like that. They use their machinery to make these products. Another one is vehicle companies like Ford. They use they use Rockwell Automation's product to create their vehicles. So case study questions. What is Rockwell Automation's relationship with the oil and gas industry? Rockwell's products are essential to many areas of the global oil and gas supply chain. Companies involved in the mining, moving, refining, and selling of oil and gas depend on Rockwell's products and services to keep their equipment running smooth and with a minimum of maintenance. Second question, how has the Internet of Things changed the oil and gas industry? By automating remote operations. The Internet of Things allows components from both the oil and gas supply chain to communicate information to the cloud, allowing for more effective upkeep and maintenance of these components. Why was Microsoft Azure a good choice for Rockwell? Microsoft Azure was the better choice because it opened doors for collaboration and visibility in the oil and gas industry, which was non-existent. With sensors, software, and the cloud, the assets can become part of a connected enterprise powered by data. What business problems did Rockwell's partnership with Microsoft and implementation of the Internet of Things technologies solve or alleviate? This partnership created a solution to monitor expensive assets and use the data to improve efficiency, better performance, and enable innovation, also reducing maintenance to remote areas and costly product breakdown. What are other common applications for the Internet of Things? So you have wearables, virtual glasses, and fitness bands, traffic monitoring, healthcare system, industrial internet, connected cars, and smart retail. And then how does Rockwell Automation or the Internet of Things relates to Belize society? So I was actually looking online to see if Belize or any company in Belize uses Rockwell's products. However, I was unable to find that information. It only prompted me to purchase items and have them shipped to Belize. But from the aspect of the Internet of Things, people use them. They're mostly using Airbnbs for turning on lights. You can do it from your phone, from an iPad and from a laptop, whatever is connected or has connection can be connected to the internet and control these items is used as is considered the Internet of Things. People use them in their homes. I know that mostly out in San Pedro and down in Placencia, you have people that actually connect their door locks to their phone so that they have the ability to unlock and lock the doors. And the major thing that people in Belize mostly use the Internet of Things for is the camera system. Before, if you'd have a camera, you'd have monitors set up in a room and a DVD or a CD that would be recording all the information. And then at the end of the day or whenever you feel like you would just simply go and check what has occurred. You could never see the information in real time. But now with the Internet of Things, people have their cameras that they set up and they connect it to the internet and can view it on their phones, or like I said, a laptop, wherever you can actually see what is happening at your house in real time. And these are my references. Any questions?
Thank you, Natasha. All right, so before our next presenter comes, I'll be sharing one more thing with you. All right, so I wanted to spend some time going over the chapters in your research paper. Like I said, there was the week that we lost time due to Hurricane Lisa, so I won't be asking you guys questions after your presentations, but I will be sharing some of the things that I wanted to go over with you in the time that we have. All right, so let's see if I can make this a little larger. Now, this document is on Moodle, but I'm also going to just share it in the chat so that you can view it while we're going along if you're not seeing it clearly. All right, and so it goes over some of the things that we expect to see in each of the chapters. As you know, our course coordinator and instructor has been Dr. Ryan, and the instruction set for the research project is that you would have done a research on an area of management information systems, which will be written in a 15 to 20 page document. And that document includes the cover page, your appendices, everything inside that document is going to be included in those 15 to 20 pages. So that means that you should not have 21 pages or 30 pages, only 20 pages maximum. And in that document, you will be writing what you were able to come up with as you solve the problem that currently exists in your society as it relates to MIS. So we've been looking at the success of information systems, and one of the problems you might have found out as you did your research is the area of focus that you're going to be looking at. I've been getting new information from the course coordinator since the start of this week, and as I get information, I try to share it with you. One of the areas that he'd like us to speak about is the COVID-19 pandemic and how organizations had to adapt to the changing times. So for information systems to remain successful, were you saying something, Natasha?
No, miss.
Okay, so for information systems to serve organizations well, they had to have systems that met the globalized environment that we were working in and allow persons to work wherever they were working from. Many organizations had to allow their employees to work from home. And we saw the changing times that we're in. So as you write, keep that in mind. Keep in mind that you need to have an article or two that also addresses some of the problems that COVID-19 brought about, and why it's important for us to have successful implementation of information systems in our workplaces, in our organizations as we develop. So in your introduction, this is a little checklist for you. Have you stated the importance of your research topic? Have you mentioned the originality of your research? What makes your research so special compared to other researches that have been done in this area? Have you stated what's known as well as unknown about the topic? And what are the objectives of your research? Have you mentioned the goal of your research? One of the beauties of having teams of 5 persons, I believe that in this class, most of your teams have at least 5 persons. You can break yourselves up into a divide and conquer approach where every member of the team is responsible for a chapter. And when I say responsible, I'm not saying that they're going to be the only person writing, but they will be the person ensuring that these criteria are met for each of the chapters. Each of your teams might use a different strategy, but that is one of the methods that you could use. You can have someone focusing on your introduction, another on the literature review, methodology, and so on. The hardest part of this project was the literature review. And there you had to spend quite a bit of time getting information, reading articles, getting papers that were relevant, finding out about systems that were similar to the ones that you're studying. And now I'm telling you, you need to have an article or two about this COVID-19 pandemic in there as well. So state the most important work done in this area, followed by the research. Who conducted the work? What did they learn from the study? And tell us about the methods that they used. The theoretical structure, another word for that is framework or theoretical model. All of them mean the same thing. Explain it. Explain the theoretical structure used and ways in which the researcher carried out the task. Yes. For instance, how did the researchers analyze and solve the issues? What did they do? What did they discover? What were the limitations of their study? And how does your study improve upon what they discovered and their limitations? Some of you have a draft of these chapters already, and you can go through this checklist to ensure that you have met these criteria. In our previous unit, we were looking at the methodology. So going back, as you write your chapter, have you stated the methodology? What's the method you're using? You're using surveys to collect data. All you're doing is writing about all the steps that you took to get data. What was the name of the organization you went to? How many employees did they have? How did you go about conducting your assessment? Write about it. Tell us how many surveys you delivered, how many you got back. We need to know. So that's all about the process. Explain your methodology, how your methodology is different from that found in previous literature. Additionally, explain any assumptions and limitations of previous literature. Include the following as well. So, provide support in chronological order for your study. For example, if you developed a model, to solve a problem, kindly explain the model in addition to ways in which different pieces of the model structure works together to achieve the objectives. Also state the robustness of the theoretical structure. So this is where we are. We are at chapter 4. And this is your data analysis and discussion chapter. It's one of the easiest chapters you will have to do, because after you've created your data collection tool, now you've collected the data, you're going to simply tell us what the data is saying in words. From the data, you would have been able to create graphs, and at the end of the class, I'd like to demonstrate that for you, just so you have an idea of what you're required to do. This chapter and the graphs that you've gotten will help you to come up with the conclusion. This is why I said it's one of the easiest parts of the research, because from this, you can create your conclusions very easily. So you'll explain how your model helped to solve the problem you propose, explain the robustness of the empirical results, as well as the consistency of data. All you're doing is writing in words what the charts are showing you graphically. That's it. And the conclusion, the easiest of the 5 chapters. So for chapter 4, find the person who loves dealing with data. The person who loves it more than the rest of you in the group. Let that person work on chapter 4. And then when you go on to chapter 5, state your major findings from the study. Explain how you were able to achieve those objectives, as well as the implications of the study. State your contributions to this area, along with the limitations of your study. And then you will state recommendations for future direction of the study. So this is why we say it's the easiest, because from the data, you're able to come up with this. How will you get your references? We expect references to be journal articles, books, or web pages. So it shouldn't be anything else other than these listed here. What's going to be in your appendix? The list of survey questions, you put that in your appendix. The data series, that means all the graphs, you're going to put those in your appendix as well. And then any additional charts, you're going to put that in the appendix as well. The tables that you collected full of data, that's going to be in your appendix as well. All right. So this document is here as a guide, and it's there for your groups to go through together as you look at the different chapters. All right, so I'm going to pause for our next presenter at this time. Diona, you can go ahead and share your screen.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Good night, class. I'll be presenting on my case study is the MBA, competing on the global delivery with Akamai OS streaming. Forgive me, I'm not feeling too well today. So today I'll be covering the introduction, objectives, summary, and the questions, and how is this similar or an example of Belize context, and lastly a reference. So firstly, I would like to differentiate the NBA and the Akamai OS streaming. NBA is a National Basketball Association. It is a professional basketball league in the Northern America. The league is composed of 30 teams and is one of the major professional sports leagues in the United States and Canada. It is the premier men's professional basketball league in the world. Akamai OS streaming This is an American Content Delivery Network, CDN abbreviation, and cloud service provider headquartered in Cambridge. The use of Akamai allows basketball fans throughout the world to access as fast as possible the NBA's virtual asset. The objective of today will be firstly to identify Potter's competitive forces model to analyze the NBA's market situation. Secondly, to identify how did the NBA got to where they are today and what strategy did they use. The third one will be identify a few partners of the NBAs. And lastly, to identify a similar context in Belize. Miss, my screen is freezing.
Okay, we see it moving now.
Summary. The MBA employs Akamai. The summary of the case study is the MBA employs Akamai global streaming video service to connect consumers and the key partners in Asia, Europe, the Middle East, Africa, North America with high quality video streaming of the MBA rich media content and programs. The Akamai video is high quality and requires a broadband connection with speed of at least 5 Mbps. The video is best seen at connection rate of at least 15 Mbps. If you're having problems playing with the web browser, furthermore, if you let it play once, the second time around will be smoother since part of the material is cached and local servers on your computer. The first question is using Potter's competitive force model to analyze the MBA's market situation. How does the use of Akamai help the MBA compete in this market? To answer that, to analyze the MBA's market condition, users Potter competitive force module and study the position in regards to the characteristics such as industry, rivalry, buyer power, supplier power, the threat of substitutes, and danger of mobility. The NBA is one of 4 professional sport leagues in North America. The NBA also has a big worldwide following, the broadcast in over 200 countries and 40 languages. This already indicates that NBA has sizable market with many people watching and rooting for various teams. Akamai technology is a firm that provides distributed computing infrastructure for worldwide internet connect and application. I believe Akamai is assisting the MBAs because there are so many places for the material to be, and they would have many people watching, interacting, and following their content if Akamai did not exist. The second question is, using Potter's strategy model, what do you think is the MBA's overall strategy or strategies? Well, using the Potter strategy model, the MBA overreaching strategy or tactics to be distinct because there is no MBA to compete with. They must compete with other sports such as baseball, football, NASCAR, and hockey. So their aim is to distinguish themselves from other sports by highlighting where they excel over their competition. For example, the rules between the MBA wants people to perceive their product and how it differs in a good way. To remain competitive, the MBA must distinguish its content. An example of how the MBA distinguish their content is, for example, basketball and international versus international rules. Here I have a couple of them. Say the game length, the court dimension, 3-point line, timeout, team foul, and technical faults, and so other more. Why is it important that all fans in the world should have the same experience? Well, the NBA must uphold its brand and reputation to accomplish, so they must provide the same experience to all of their followers worldwide. Games are held in America, but if a fan in China wants to see their favorite act, internet streaming is their only option. All spectators may participate in the athletic action to high-quality streaming. This helps loyal consumers happy and generate income from overseas admirers. The fourth question is, why is it important that the individual franchise owners can build, manage, and distribute on the MBA's platform their own content? There are several reasons why their talent are vital for franchise owners. For starters, this enables franchises to quickly create and promote their own live events. This enables them to provide material to awaiting clients instantaneously. This also enables the franchise to impose license limits in its policies, which is their business module. They can also specify who can see their material and which regions are restricted. Finally, this allows them to tailor their advertising at the material they present. The last question is, the word partnership appears several times in the video. Who are the NBA partners? How does the concept of strategic ecosystem applies on the NBA's partnership strategies? The NBA's club has various partners, including the Akamai, the players, food and beverages, suppliers, television, broadcaster, and so on. The ecosystem consists of individuals with who they continue to do business. The NBA ecosystem partners are technological business that assist in the transforming video material and delivering it globally. The NBA strategy ecosystem consists of consumers, brand corporation, technical companies, and video production organization. The definition of partnership is the relationship between two or more people to do trade or business. Each person contribute money, property, labor, or skills and share it in profit or loss of the business. In Billy's context would be Love of M. For example, this is a broadcast radio station that keeps Belizean informed of what's going on in the country. Update them every day or every hour, I would say. LAFAVM also collaborates with businesses, nonprofit groups, and other organizations as it's a well-known stream among Belizeans. My references, thank you.
Thank you, Diona. And I hope you feel better soon. All right, so before we have our next presenter, as promised, I'm going to be walking you through some of the data collection steps. It's very quick, and like I said, it's one of the easiest parts of the project. Now, most of you have done your surveys. Some of you did both surveys, and so for the teams that did both surveys, I'm going to share with you the options that you have. So this one is from one of the students. I just grabbed it for demonstration purposes, but you'll notice they omitted these first categories here. I guess because they didn't see the importance of it, but all of the information you collect should remain in your data sheet, and you're going to be adding this to your appendix section of the document. You can decide how you're going to do that, or you can just use the graphs themselves that you generate. So for the first part of your data set, you would have had the background information for the person. I'm just using this survey here because this is the one I have available. And you'll notice the first section was background information. And there you would have just had the person's gender and how many years they've been at the institution, etc. Or if you were working with students, as in this example, then you would have found out what year they were, their age, and if they had any work experience. So that's the background information. All of this is going to be represented in a table. So that's what makes this part of the survey different from the rest of the survey as you represent it in your data presentation, right? Now from 2 right up to the last point, you're going to be representing these in histograms. Your information quality, system quality, service quality, and so on. And so in your data sets, what you're going to do is to identify these different sections from the data you've collected, and then we try to generate those averages. So let's look at this example. Now this group went ahead and color coded it for me. So I was able to add a column to the left of each of the color coded sections, which represents the information quality and so on that we were assessing, right? So there we put in the name of the category that we're looking at, and then we find the average of the entire row from the start question to the last question. We're finding the averages and copying all that down the list. So we do the same thing for system quality. We create a new column, we add the category name, and then we find the average of those questions pertinent to system quality. And we continue doing that until we've reached the last set of questions for seed net benefits. When you've done that, then you'd be able to generate a chart. So I'm just going to show you the generation of the charts. All right. So here I've selected the averages, and that's the only column we're going to select. We go to insert, chart. Now mine already had the histogram selected, but if you came here and you notice a different type of chart was selected, you can click on the little down arrow here and look for a histogram in the list. We then go over to customize and select the second item in the list, which is histogram. And we're going to change the bucket size to 1. This is just for the representation of the data. We also can select show item dividers so that we can see how many persons responded to each of these. Now, what does this mean? All right, let's go back to our example survey. So do you remember having them select between 1 to 7 or 1 to 5 or whatever the case was for your example? These are what are represented here. So it should start at 1. In this example, it started at 2, but that can be fixed later on. So this is showing that these were some of the lower scores, and then 5 would have been a satisfactory score for perceived net benefits. And it's showing us that at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 persons, and we have the line there to show us, 6 persons responded favorably towards perceived net benefits. We have persons responding neutrally, we have persons responding average, and then we have persons responding very poorly to perceived net benefits in the organization. So this looks like about 3 persons here responding poorly. Now, all you're doing is looking at what the charts are showing you and then writing this out in words. What can you do with the charts though? You'll notice that there are 3 buttons to the right-hand corner. There you can edit, you can delete, you can download the chart. And this is how you actually get it into your document. You can download it as a PNG or SVG. And then these would be, you can name them. So name them according to the category that they represent so that you can place them in your document later on and label them accordingly. You can publish your chart, you can copy it or move it to its own sheet. I would recommend moving it to its own sheet first, making sure you have that for all of the charts that you're going to create. I'm just demonstrating one, but you will have to do this for each of the categories you listed. Okay. So after you've created one chart for information quality, system quality, complementary technology service, user satisfaction, use, perceived net benefits, then you will do one more thing. Earlier, you were finding the averages of each of the rows. Now you're going to find the average of the column of averages. So for perceived net benefits, we would find the average of that column. We would go on and keep finding the averages of each of the columns that we created. Oops, down here. All right, so let me fix this one. So this should be the average of this column, and it's going to be represented there. Wait. Start from the top. And then start. Okay, so it's going to find the average of each of those columns. So why are we doing this? All right, the reason for that is because we're going to create yet one more histogram. And this histogram is going to be a histogram that represents each of these categories side by side. So you're going to get something that looks a little bit like this for each of the categories. So you will see them side by side. Now, this is an example from one of the other groups, and their survey was a little different from ours. They had different categories, but it's the same process. So all of the data here represented in yellow is going to be in a table. And then those in green represents the averages. Okay. And then you will find the average of those averages and put them in their own table. In that example, it was put in the same column, but just to remove confusion, you can put them in a separate table like was done here. And then you create a chart just for that one. But for each of the averages, you would have your category for information quality, innovation quality, capability, and so on. So those will be represented. And then when you're done, you can download your chart so that you can place these in your document. And in placing them in your document, you'll be able to write about them and then share more. All right, so we're going to move on to our final presenter. Gabriel, the floor is yours. And after that, I will open the floor to any questions you might have.
Right now, miss, I'm just trying to load the screen.
Okay. While he's doing that, I'm going to just take the attendance quickly. Shanley,
Here, miss.
Richa, Shanice, Juana,
Here, miss.
Tiana, Daniel,
Present.
Vanetta,
Here, miss.
Dominic, Karen,
Here, miss.
Keisha,
Here, miss.
Martha,
Here.
Shanika,
Here, miss.
Zolmi. Zolmi isn't here. Natasha,
Here.
then Diona. Okay, Gabriel.
So I try to load, but did you give me a button for me? Can I share it? Right now.
Yes, we're seeing your screen. We're seeing your screen.
Okay. How come I? Okay, right now, miss.
Carla,
Here.
Jalen. Okay, no Jalen and Annalie.
Here, miss.
You can go ahead, Gabriel.
All right. Good night, class. Better hear me. My name is Gabriel Ramirez. Tonight, I'll be presenting my case today on ESPN.com, the future of sports coverage in the clouds.
Good night, Tony. Become an right there.
Go ahead, Gabriel.
Just a brief introduction. ESPN was founded by a father and son duo in 1978 and was launched on September 7, 1979. ESPN is an American cable television network in Bristol, Connecticut. They focus on sports programming, both live, pre-recorded or pre-taped events, telecasts, sports, highlights, talk shows, and other original programs. All right, I will start with my first question. How many requests from users does ESPN receive each second? Do you think this is a consistent pattern, or does it have peaks, valleys? When does it peak? Each second, ESPN receives more than 1,000 requests from users. Therefore, the pattern is not consistent. The peak in users' requests usually occur when there is an event taking place. So, let me explain in a little nutshell. For example, when you have the NBA playoffs, you will find that the users of the network is very high compared to the regular season. So that's the spot that the peak of the pattern is not consistent. Why does ESPN store personal information and preferences on its database, and how does this personal information complicate the ability of ESPN to respond to requests from users? Why can't ESPN just use web page catching and handling to handle the loads? Databases are used by ESPN to store information to allow users to access personal information that is used on every ESPN platform's apps website used by ESPN. They also want to know your preferences through your personal information. For example, what sports you like and which one you prefer more, so they can show you more ads about the sports you prefer. This personal information complicates the ability of ESPN to respond to requests from users because they need to respond to thousands of users within split seconds. So that makes it difficult. ESPN can't just use a web page caching to handle the loads. They need to store millions of users' information on a web page, information that our page would be too small for storing. Number 3, how much information on users does ESPN store? Why does this pose a challenge for ESPN? Can't it just use standard 1 terabyte hard drives from a PC? Why can't it use a single PC? Here's why. Over 200 gigs of user information is stored by the ESPN. This poses challenges for ESPN because so much or all information won't fit. When it's 1,000 information, the drive would be too small and the information won't be able to fit. A standard 1 terabyte drive or a single PC can't be used. The information would need to be converted into chips or codes using a program that the computer understands. And number 4, why is skippability so important for ESPN? Skippability creates fast response. So let the users get a fast response. It is very important for ESPN because it allows ESPN to switch on and off servers quickly and automatically depending on the service needed. Number 5. How has ESPN handled the rise in Twitter? How has it incorporated Twitter into SportsCenter? ESPN handled the rise of Twitter in the most unusual way. Why? Because they created a platform where users of Twitter and even Facebook would upload videos to their feed. Those videos would have links that would lead customers to use their ESPN website, and in this case, which would in turn create new users and customers. They also incorporate Twitter into sports centers by using hashtags to communicate with other shows, radio shows, and etc. Number 6. What has ESPN originally, a cable services, done to adjust the rise in users canceling their subscription in favor of unbundling services? To adjust the rise in users canceling their subscription, ESPN raised their subscription costs. The more subscriptions lost, the more they raise their prices to make up for their losses. I don't really know how to do it, but when I was in my research, I found out that the more customers, so they lose customers in a certain year, in a couple year span, they begin to raise their prices to make up for their loss of customers. The main example I would say in how ESPN relates to Belize would be the BBN station, because it's a newly found station, and I believe mostly when we want to watch football mainly, but and basketball also, people are more in tune to the BBN network, and I see they're more focused. They're more like a sports centered around station, which include they do other activities, but more a sports station centered for Belize, I would say. And my references. Thank you, class. Thank you, miss.
Thank you, Gabriel. All right, so I'm going to open the floor to you guys for questions if you have any.
Yes, Miss, I have a question. You were showing just a while ago the Excel with how you get the tables and what's not. I don't know if I missed when you mentioned about the average. What was the need, the reason for to get the average and to get the data from the average?
Okay, so that's to help you with the data analysis chapter. When we do the histograms, you're able to see how many persons responded favorably, how many persons responded poorly to the different categories that we were assessing. So from that, you will be able to see what the weaknesses or the vulnerabilities are in their information system. So that's the reason why we do it.
Gotcha. And then we don't use, because normally when you do like one of those surveys, some data is already generated. So you want us to like further break it down and then use that data. Okay,
That's right.
thanks.
Sure. Okay. So on the screen, I have when the graded assessments are due. And in the upcoming week, I'm going to see how possible it is for me to contact each of the group leaders just to find out if you need any extra assistance. If we have to schedule a time outside of class, we can do that. But I want to use our sessions coming up to really just spend more time focusing on the project, because we are practically out of time. We just have 2 more weeks. And I want you guys to get it done, and not just done, but done well. Those of you who started writing up your chapters, we can go over and see, using the checklist I shared with you tonight, you can go and see what are some of the areas that you need to improve on. And if you think of any questions, you can still voice those. Yes, Shanley, I see your hand.
Miss, my group and I would just like to ask if you can stay back, Miss, with us. We just have a couple of questions that we'd like to ask you personally.
Okay.
Thanks.
Alrighty. Well, that is it for this evening. So I will see you guys next week. And like I said, if you think of anything else, you can send me an email. All right.